Michael Jackson's death wasn't just a tragic accident. It was properly planned to get revenge. Just 6 weeks before of his death, Michael had predicted his own demise from a Propofol overdose and had warned about it earlier. His troubles began when he ignited a public feud with Tommy Mottola, the powerful CEO of Sony. As Michael was working on a comeback album that promised to reveal shocking truths, events took a dark turn. On the fateful night of June 25, 2009, his doctor administered a fatal dose, leading to Michael's untimely death. Somehow his doctor was in league with Mottola, hinting at a sinister plot to silence the king of pop forever. Eventually, the doctor was found guilty, adding another layer to this chilling story. But how did it all start between Sony and Michael Jackson? Stick around till the end of the video as we dive deep to uncover the hidden myths and the real story from the very beginning.
Tommy Mottola is a devil.
There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They could frame me and say I overdosed him with drugs.
He's not breathing, we're trying to pump him, but he's not responding to the CPR or anything.
Michael Jackson, the pop music and dance innovator, passed away yesterday.
First of all, Michael told me that they were going to murder him. He was afraid. He was afraid for his life.
You had your cell phone.
I had my cell phone.
You didn't call 911.
I did not call 911.
Do you feel guilty that he died?
I don't feel guilty.
I mean, wasn't it reckless to leave?
No.
Why didn't you tell the paramedics when they came that he had taken Propofol?
He reached over and grabbed a handful of vials, and then he reached out to me and said, "Here, put these in a bag."
Michael Joseph Jackson, known as the King of Pop, was an American singer, songwriter, dancer, and philanthropist, born on August 29, 1958. His impact on music, dance, and fashion, along with his publicized personal life, made him a global cultural icon. Jackson began his career with the Jackson 5 in 1964, achieving worldwide success with Motown. He embarked on a solo career in 1971, releasing hit albums like Off the Wall and Thriller, the latter becoming the best-selling album of all time. Jackson's music videos, notably for songs like Beat It and Billie Jean, transformed the medium and broke racial barriers. Despite controversies over his appearance and personal life, he remains one of the best-selling music artists, with numerous awards and records, including 15 Grammy Awards and 39 Guinness World Records. In November 1983, Jackson and his brothers partnered with Pepsi in a $5 million promotional deal, the first Pepsi campaign, which ran in the U.S. from 1983 to 1984 and launched its New Generation theme, included tour sponsorship, public relations events, and in-store displays. Jackson helped to create the advertisement and suggested using his song Billie Jean with revised lyrics as its jingle. On January 27, 1984, Michael and other members of the Jacksons filmed a Pepsi commercial at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. During a simulated concert before a full house of fans, pyrotechnics accidentally set Jackson's hair on fire, causing second-degree burns to his scalp. Jackson underwent treatment to hide the scars and had his third rhinoplasty shortly thereafter. After the Pepsi accident, Michael's life and career continued to be incredibly successful, but the shadow of the incident lingered. He became more reclusive and his appearance began to change, fueling endless speculation and rumors. His use of painkillers and other medications became a part of his routine, a way to manage not just physical pain, but perhaps emotional and psychological stress as well. The Victory Tour of December 1984 headlined the Jacksons and showcased Jackson's new solo material to more than 2 million Americans. It was the last tour he did with his brothers. Following controversy over the concert's ticket sales, Jackson donated his share of the proceeds, an estimated $3 to $5 million, to charity. During the last concert of the Victory Tour at the Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, Jackson announced his split from the Jacksons during Shake Your Body. Jackson signed a second agreement with Pepsi in the late 1980s for $10 million. The second campaign covered 20 countries and provided financial support for Jackson's Bad Album and 1987 to 88 World Tour. The same year, Robert Holmes à Court announced he was selling the Sony ATV Music Publishing catalog, which included most of the Beatles' songs. Initially offered to Paul McCartney for $40 million in 1981, Initially offered to Paul McCartney for $40 million in 1981, Michael Jackson submitted a bid of $46 million on November 20, 1984. When Jackson and McCartney couldn't make a joint purchase, McCartney chose not to pursue it alone. Jackson's agents initially failed to secure a deal and left talks in May 1985. Holmes Court resumed talks with Jackson, and Jackson's increased bid of $47.5 million was accepted. The purchase of ATV Music was finalized on August 10, 1985. This way, Jackson-owned Michael bought half of the Sony ATV catalog. In 1986, it was reported that Jackson slept in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber to slow aging. He denied the story, although it was alleged that Jackson leaked an image of him sleeping in a glass chamber. According to Jackson, this was a promotional shot from an upcoming space opera featuring himself. To the National Enquirer, Jackson took female hormone shots to keep his voice high and facial hair wispy, proposed to Elizabeth Taylor and possibly had a shrine of her, and had cosmetic surgery on his eyes. Jackson's manager, Frank DeLeo, denied all of them, except for Jackson having a chamber. DeLeo added, "I don't know if he sleeps in it. I'm not for it. But Michael thinks it's something that's probably healthy for him. He's a bit of a health fanatic." And a 1993 interview, Jackson said he had had 2 rhinoplasty surgeries and a cleft chin surgery, but no more than that. Jackson's dependency on painkillers, initially for reconstructive scalp surgeries from the 1984 Pepsi accident, worsened due to the stress of the allegations. In November 1993, Jackson canceled the remainder of his Dangerous World Tour, citing health problems and painkiller addiction, ending his sponsorship deal with Pepsi. Michael Jackson's contract with Sony Music, specifically through its subsidiary Epic Records, began with the release of his album Off the Wall in 1979 and extended for several decades. However, in March 1991, Michael renewed his contract with Sony Music for $65 million, a record-breaking deal. CBS Records was acquired by Sony Music in 1988. Michael's contract with Sony gave him control over his music catalog and allowed him to release albums under the Sony label. The conditions of this contract were that he had to release at least 3 studio albums, 1 remix album, 2 more greatest hits collections, and a compilation box set. That same year, he released the album Dangerous with the single Black or White. Black or White, it was the album's highest charting song. It was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 weeks and achieved similar chart performances worldwide. The second single, Remember the Time, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. At the end of 1992, Dangerous was the best-selling album of the year worldwide, and Black or White, the best-selling single of the year worldwide at the Billboard Music Awards. In 1993, he performed Remember the Time at the Soul Train Music Awards in a chair, saying he twisted his ankle during dance rehearsals. In the UK, Heal the World made number 2 on the charts in 1992. That July, Jackson published his second book, Dancing the Dream, a collection of poetry. The Dangerous World Tour ran between June 1992 and November 1993 and grossed $100 million. Jackson performed for 3.5 million people in 70 concerts, all of which were outside the U.S. Part of the proceeds went to Heal the World Foundation. Jackson sold the broadcast rights of the tour to HBO for $20 million, a record-breaking deal that still stands. During his time with Sony Music, Michael Jackson released numerous hit singles, many of which became iconic songs in pop music history. Jackson's relationship with Sony experienced ups and downs, especially during the late 1990s and early 2000s, highlighted by public disputes with Tommy Mottola, Sony's CEO. In November 23, 1992, he created the Heal the World Foundation to help the world's most disadvantaged children, victims of violence, poverty, and terminal illnesses, and later went on the Dangerous World Tour. All proceeds of it went to the foundation. The conflict between Michael Jackson and Sony, particularly its head Tommy Mottola, became quite public and intense around the early 2000s, although its roots can be traced back to the late 1990s. Jackson's and Sony's first conflict started in 1997, as the company started to try and control Michael and his work. The artist wanted the rights to his songs to revert back early in the new decade. The label, however, turned their back on him and extended the copyright. In the late 1990s, Jackson was one of the biggest stars in the world with a lucrative contract with with Sony Music, which included ownership stakes in his music catalog and other valuable assets. However, tensions between Jackson and Sony started to surface, mainly over control, money, and creative freedom. Jackson felt that Sony was not paying him fairly for his work and believed that the company was not giving him the financial returns he deserved from his music sales and rights. Additionally, Jackson wanted more creative freedom, feeling that Sony was interfering too much in his artistic process. One of the most significant issues was the ownership of the valuable ATV music publishing catalog, which included the rights to many Beatles songs. Jackson had acquired a significant stake in this catalog, and Sony wanted to gain full control over it. The conflict reached a boiling point around 2001 to 2002 during the promotion of Jackson's album Invincible. Jackson accused Sony and Tommy Mottola of sabotaging the album's success, claiming that Mottola was a racist and that Sony had not properly promoted the album. Jackson also accused the company of conspiring to force him into financial distress so they could take control of his music catalog. In an unusual move for a star of his caliber, Jackson took his grievances public, holding press conferences and protests, notably outside Sony's headquarters in New York. He made strong accusations against Mottola and Sony, describing the company as a corrupt entity that exploited artists. The hardest dispute started in the 2000s. In 2001, Michael released the album Invincible, but he was waiting for his contract with Sony to expire so he could manage everything himself without depending on the powerful major or having to pay them a big part of the benefits, so he tried to find a way to end the agreement before notifying it to the then president of Sony, Tommy Mottola. So in retaliation, the label canceled everything related to the album 2 months before its release, in addition to canceling the single What More Can I Give, which Jackson recorded with the aim of raising money for the victims of 9/11, along with many other great artists. In addition, Jackson realized that the lawyer who represented him in that case also worked with Sony, and that the label was pressuring him to buy part of his royalties. He was also concerned that for years, Sony had been pressuring him to sell his share in its music catalog venture. He feared that Sony might have had a conflict of interest, since if Jackson's career failed, he would have had to sell his share of the catalog at a low price. The company decided to butcher the promotion for Invincible, making it perform weaker compared to previous releases. Additionally, Michael couldn't release songs he wanted as singles, and ideas for many music videos had to be shelved. Finally, Invincible was released on October 30th, 2001 to much anticipation. It was Jackson's first full-length album in 6 years, and the last album of original material he released in his lifetime. It debuted at #1 in 13 countries and went on to sell approximately 13 million copies worldwide. Not even a year after its release, Sony Music suddenly stopped promoting the project. Sales for Invincible were lower than Jackson's previous releases, due in part to the record label dispute and the lack of promotion or tour, and its release at a bad time for the music industry in general. At the time, Jackson also attended protests organized by fans supporting the act and even holding fans' signs like "Sony is phony" or "Sony sucks, Sony kills music." The protest took place in 2002, and it was a very public event. Jackson held a press conference outside Sony's headquarters in New York City. Michael was openly critical of Sony, and especially of the infamous Mottola. Jackson said that Tommy Mottola used the N-word on an unidentified black artist. Michael called Mottola mean, a racist, and very, very, very devilish.
Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very, very, very devilish.
He also added, "Being the artist that I am, at Sony I've generated several $1 billion for Sony. Several billion. They really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing. It usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them. So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do. Because now I'm a free agent, I just owe Sony one more album. So I'm leaving Sony, a free agent, owning half of Sony. I own half of Sony's publishing. I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because I just did good business, you know. So the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. But I've always said, you know, good art never dies, thank you. And Tommy Mottola is a devil. I'm not supposed to say what I'm going to say right now, but I have let you know this. Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying. She was crying so badly I had to hold her. She said to me, "This is an evil man, and Michael, this man follows me. He taps her phones and he's very, very evil. She doesn't trust him. He's a horrible human being."
You know, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony. Several billion. And Tommy Mottola is a devil. Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying.
Sony likely issued statements denying the accusations and defending their actions. Though the protest didn't bring an immediate resolution to his conflicts with Sony, it marked a significant moment in Jackson's ongoing battle for control over his career and his creative freedom. His bold stand outside Sony's headquarters remains a memorable chapter in the history of music industry disputes. In March 2009, Michael Jackson was preparing for a major comeback with a series of concerts titled This Is It. These concerts were scheduled to take place at the O2 Arena in London and were highly anticipated, marking Jackson's return to the stage after years away from the limelight. The shows would have been Jackson's first major series of concerts since the History World Tour finished in 1997. The excitement surrounding these concerts was immense, with fans eager to see the King of Pop perform once again. Jackson was also working on new music, aiming to release a comeback album that would reaffirm his status as one of the greatest entertainers of all time. However, behind the scenes, Jackson was struggling with various health issues. His intense rehearsals were physically demanding, and he was reportedly dealing with significant stress and anxiety. To manage his pain and sleep problems, Jackson relied on a variety of medications. One of the most critical and controversial aspects of his medical treatment involved the use of Propofol, a powerful anesthetic usually administered in hospitals for surgery. Dr. Conrad Murray was the physician responsible for Jackson's medical care during this period. Murray was hired to oversee Jackson's health, particularly to help him manage his chronic insomnia. To help Jackson sleep, Murray administered Propofol, which Jackson referred to as his milk, due to its white, milky appearance. This practice was highly unusual and risky, as Propofol is not meant for home use and requires careful monitoring due to its potent effects. As the rehearsals for This Is It continued, Jackson's condition seemed increasingly fragile. Those close to him noticed that he appeared weak and fatigued, sparking concerns about his ability to perform. Despite these worries, Jackson remained determined to proceed with the concerts, driven by a deep desire to reconnect with his fans and secure his legacy. At the midnight of June 25th, Conrad Murray, his personal physician, had given Jackson various medications to help him sleep at his mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. Paramedics received a 911 call at 12:22 p.m. Pacific Time and arrived 3 minutes later. Jackson was not breathing, and CPR was performed. Resuscitation efforts continued en route to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center and for more than an hour after Jackson's arrival there, but were unsuccessful, and Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. Pacific Time. The cause of death was ruled as acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication, with Dr. Conrad Murray being held responsible for administering the fatal dose. Dr. Conrad Murray faced significant legal consequences following Michael Jackson's death. In 2011, he was tried and convicted of involuntary manslaughter for administering the lethal dose of propofol that led to Jackson's death. His death may seem like an unfortunate accident, but it is not. Let's uncover the hidden truths behind Michael Jackson's tragic death. In June 2009, shortly before his death, Michael Jackson made a phone call that has since sparked much discussion and speculation. During this call, he was speaking with his former manager, Dieter Wiesner. The conversation was recorded, and in it, Jackson expressed his deep concerns about his safety. He mentioned feeling that there might be a group of people who wanted to get rid of him, saying, "I don't know if I might tell you this. There may be a group of people who want to get rid of me. I can't talk about this over the phone. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just feel in my soul. Only God knows. They could shoot me. They could strap me. They could frame me, and they say I overloaded on drugs. They can do a lot of things."
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Talk to me.
I can't talk about it over the phone. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just feel in my soul, only God knows, they could shoot me. They could stab me. They could frame me and say I overdosed you on drugs. They can do a lot of things.
Who could do this?
But I don't know today.
This recording has been widely circulated, adding a layer of mystery to the events leading up to Jackson's tragic passing. His words have raised questions about whom he was referring to and why. Many conspiracy theories believe Jackson was pointing towards Tommy Mottola, the former head of Sony Music, with whom he had a contentious relationship in the past and alleged him of being devil. Possibly, Tommy Mottola, a prominent figure in the music industry, allegedly hired Dr. Conrad Murray to administer fatal doses of medication to Jackson, orchestrating a scheme to eliminate the iconic pop star. The myth further alleges that Mottola offered financial incentives to Dr. Murray in exchange for his cooperation in carrying out the alleged plot. For some, it might not make sense. However, there are further indications that suggest a connection to both the doctor and Tommy Mottola. Once more, let's explore the events of that night. On the night of Michael Jackson's death, Dr. Conrad Murray was attending to him at Jackson's home in the Holmby Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles. Around 10:40 p.m., Jackson reportedly asked for his milk, referring to Propofol, indicating his request for help with sleep. Dr. Murray obliged and administered the drug. He then left Jackson alone for a brief period. When Murray returned sometime later, he found Jackson unresponsive and not breathing. This was around 11 p.m. Rather than immediately calling emergency services, Dr. Murray attempted to revive Jackson himself. He performed CPR while another member of Jackson's staff, Alberto Alvarez, called Jackson's personal assistant, Michael Amir Williams, for assistance. This call was made at approximately 12:21 p.m. by Michael Jackson's security guard, Alberto Alvarez, nearly an hour after Jackson was discovered unresponsive. Alvarez provided critical information to the operator about Jackson's condition. The operator asks if MJ is on the floor. Alvarez responded, "He's on the bed," upon which the operator says, "You need to get him on the floor. I'll teach you CPR right now." Alvarez responded, "He has a personal doctor here with him, sir, and he's not responding to CPR.
Fire paramedic 33, what is your emergency?
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir. Sir, we have a gentleman here that needs help, and he's not breathing yet. He's not breathing, and we're trying to pump him, but he's not.
Okay. Okay. How old is he?
He's 50 years old, sir.
50. Okay. He's unconscious. He's not breathing.
Yes, he's not breathing, sir.
Okay, and he's not conscious either.
He's not conscious, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you have him? Is he on the floor? Where's he at right now?
He's on the bed, sir. He's on the bed.
Okay, let's get him on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, let's get him down to the floor. I'm gonna help you with CPR right now. Okay.
We need him. Yes,
we're already on our way there. We're on our way. I'm gonna do as much as I can to help you over the phone. We're already on our way. Did anybody see him?
Yes, we have a personal doctor here with him, sir.
Oh, you have a doctor there?
Yes, but he's not responding to anything. So no, he's not responding to CPR or anything, sir.
Oh, okay.
What? Are you serious? Are you saying that he is a doctor by profession and doesn't know that CPR can't be performed effectively on a soft surface? Another crucial question emerges. Where did Dr. Conrad Murray go after administering the fatal dose of Propofol to Michael Jackson? He said that he left the chamber for just 2 minutes just to pick the call. And when he came back, he noticed Jackson wasn't responding, and he was unaware of how long Michael was down. Murray originally told police he left Jackson's room for only 2.5 minutes to use the restroom, but cell phone records show Murray was also on his iPhone that morning, talking and emailing for more than 40 minutes.
We have a 10:14 a.m. phone call, a 10:20 phone call.
Murray originally told police he left Jackson's room for only 2.5 minutes to use the restroom. But cell phone records show Murray was also on his iPhone that morning, talking and emailing for more than 40 minutes.
How could you really be monitoring Michael Jackson at the same time you're making calls, you're texting, you're emailing? Were you distracted?
No, I was not.
Even after making such a big mistake, Dr. Conrad Murray didn't call 911 right away when he found Michael Jackson unresponsive. Instead, he tried CPR himself and then called Jackson's assistant. It doesn't make sense, does it? Paramedics received a 911 call at 12:22 p.m. Pacific Time, and Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. Pacific Time. Believe me, this would be the biggest shock to Michael Jackson's fandom. When the paramedics arrived at Michael Jackson's home, Dr. Conrad Murray did not inform them that Jackson had taken Propofol. Instead, he told the paramedics that he had only given Jackson a small amount of lorazepam, a sedative. This omission was critical because it delayed the paramedics' understanding of the true cause of Jackson's condition, potentially hindering their ability to provide appropriate and timely treatment. Dr. Murray later told the police that he had been using Propofol to help Jackson sleep for about 2 months, but this admission came only after Jackson's death, not at the time when emergency intervention could have been most effective. Furthermore, just before the paramedics arrived, a security guard, Alberto Alvarez, testified that Dr. Murray asked him to help hide evidence by putting empty vials and bottles into a bag.
Yes, while I was standing at the foot of the bed, he reached over and grabbed a handful of vials, and then he reached out to me and said, "Here, put these in a bag."
This action suggested that Murray was aware that the use of these drugs, particularly Propofol, was highly improper and potentially incriminating. By trying to conceal the medications, Murray's behavior indicated a consciousness of guilt and a desire to cover up the extent of his involvement in Jackson's medical treatment. These actions, failing to disclose the use of Propofol to the paramedics and attempting to hide the evidence, played a significant role in the legal case against Dr. Murray, highlighting his gross negligence and unprofessional conduct in the care of Michael Jackson. In today's Savannah Guthrie interview, she asked, "Why didn't you tell the paramedics when they came that he had taken Propofol?" He said, "That's a very sad reason, because it was inconsequential 25 milligrams, and the effects gone means nothing." She added, "Well, wait a minute. Why not let them be the judge of that? Why not supply the best information you have? You told them about the other drugs, but you didn't tell them about the Propofol. Paramedics depend on me because it had no effect."
Why didn't you tell the paramedics when they came that he had taken Propofol?
And that's a very sad reason, because it was inconsequential. 25 milligrams and the effects gone means nothing.
Well, wait a minute. Why not let them be the judge of that? Why not supply the best information you have?
Paramedics depend on me.
Well, you told them about the other drugs, but you didn't tell them about the Propofol.
Because it had no effect. It was not an issue.
On August 28, 2009, the Los Angeles County coroner determined that Jackson died from acute Propofol intoxication. In February 2011, Murray was formally charged with involuntary manslaughter. On September 27, 2011, Murray went on trial in Los Angeles. The most significant allegation against Dr. Conrad Murray was reckless in the use of Propofol in a home setting without proper monitoring or equipment. As Propofol is a powerful drug typically used in hospital settings for surgical procedures, not for treating insomnia in a home environment. Insomnia is a sleep disorder characterized by difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or experiencing poor quality sleep despite having the opportunity to sleep. When Dr. Steinberg, the cardiologist expert, was asked if he knew of any doctors using Propofol to treat insomnia, he promptly replied, "I've never heard of that." Then, when asked if he believed using Propofol for insomnia treatment was gross negligence, he firmly responded, "Yes, and this is..."
Had you ever heard of any doctor using Propofol in their practice of medicine to treat insomnia?
I've never heard of it.
And in your opinion, is the use of Propofol as part of a doctor's medical practice to treat insomnia gross negligence?
Yes.
How the Dr. Murray answered the allegation against him. The police audio interview with Doctor was played in the court, in which he was telling the investigator that it was 4:30 in the morning and he was wide awake, and then he complained, "I got to sleep, Dr. Conrad. I have these rehearsals to perform. I must be ready for the show in England tomorrow. I will have to cancel my performance." And at that time he said, "I would like have some milk. This is just a medicine," that he was familiar with the medicine called Propofol.
It was 4:30 in the morning, and he was wide awake, and then he complained, "I got to sleep, Dr. Conrad. I have these rehearsals to perform. I must be ready for the show in England. And tomorrow I will have to cancel my performance." And at that time he said, "I'd like to have some milk." This is just a medicine that he was familiar with.
What is the medicine?
It's called Propofol.
In a 60 Minutes show interview with Liz Hayes, she said, "But it's not a treatment for insomnia. No matter what he said to you, no matter how he begged, no matter how hard it is that he is, Michael Jackson asking you the truth is. And it's the thing I don't know why you don't accept is that you should never have given it to him."
It's not a treatment for insomnia, no matter what he said to you, no matter how he begged, no matter how hard it is that he is Michael Jackson asking you. The truth is, and it's the thing I don't know why you don't accept, is that you should never have given it to him. Ever.
He answered, Michael Jackson had a lot of doctors who treated him with Propofol. Con Mary was a doctor that treated Michael with Propofol, but with the intention of getting Michael to understand, I do not want you using the substance again. And I succeeded. Just check how sharp-minded he is. In a Los Angeles court trial, the police audio interview with Murray was played in the court, in which the investigation officer was asking about his job and when he joined Michael, and further questions. One of the questions was, do you know if he was under the care of any other doctors? He responded he never disclosed that to me. So how did he know that Con Mary treated Michael with Propofol? Just 6 weeks before Michael Jackson's death, Dr. Conrad Murray recorded an audio clip while administering Propofol to Jackson. In the recording, Jackson's speech is slurred as he discusses his plans for building a children's hospital.
I've never seen nothing like this in my life. No, I've never seen nothing like this. No. It's amazing. He's the greatest entertainer in the world. I'm taking it money. I'm building children's the biggest in the world.
And in a 60-minute show interview, he admitted that he recorded it, but without any intentions. The second most pressing and troubling question for Dr. Murray was why he didn't call 911 immediately. Murray controversially did not call 911. He said that he was hindered because there was no landline telephone in the house and because he did not know the house's exact address. It was later discovered that Murray had made several private calls on his cell phone in the hour after discovering Jackson's state, which he did not inform law enforcement about. Conrad Murray told Today's Savannah Guthrie that he didn't call 911 when Michael Jackson stopped breathing because emergency responders would not have been able to get through the gate to the singer's home. No one is allowed to come upstairs except for Mr. Jackson. You called his bodyguard. Couldn't you have said, call 911 and meet him at the gate? Murray responded that he didn't want to leave a full explanation on the phone and that he didn't think Jackson's employee would return his call.
Why didn't you call 911 right away?
No one is allowed to come upstairs, except for Mr. Jackson. His securities are not allowed to enter the house.
You called his bodyguard. Couldn't you have said, call 911 and meet him at the gate?
Call 911 would still require him to call me back. I don't think he would do that, and I was not about to leave a full explanation on the phone.
But in a 60 Minutes interview with Liz Hayes, she questioned Dr. Conrad Murray. You had your cell phone, but you didn't call 911? Dr. Murray admitted,
I had my cell phone.
You didn't call 911.
I did not call 911.
Hayes pressed further.
You called his assistant
Yes.
to call security. Yes. This is a vital time. You're the medical practitioner, you know 911. Call emergency is your first port of call, isn't it?
Dr. Murray explained, for a layperson, the first port of call is to dial 911 because they're seeking skilled assistance. I am a specialist.
I have the skill. I could start immediately.
Hayes then clarified.
So you didn't think you needed to call 911?
Dr. Murray responded,
No, I'm not saying I didn't need. I needed help. I needed help for sure.
Observe how cleverly is twisting things. Dr. Steinberg, the cardiologist expert, said in court that at its basic knowledge in America, you don't have to be a healthcare professional.
When someone is down, you need to call 911 for help. Dr. Murray should have known that. When he saw Mr. Jackson down, he should have known, I have none of the equipment.
I have none of the medications. I have no help any other medical personnel that can help me.
I need to get help quick. One of the first things you should have done is call 911.
On November 29, 2011, Murray received the maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. The judge said Murray repeatedly lied, engaged in deceitful misconduct, and endeavored to cover up his transgressions. He violated the trust of the medical community of his colleagues and of his patient. Can you believe it? The man responsible for the death of the king of pop, Michael Jackson, was released from prison. Dr. Conrad Murray walked free on October 28, 2013, after serving only about 2 years of his original 4-year sentence for involuntary manslaughter. This release was made possible partly because of California's overcrowded prisons and Murray's good behavior behind bars. But it's not so simple to just free a doctor convicted in such a high-profile case. It makes you wonder if there was power and money behind it all, as Michael Jackson hinted during conversations with his former manager, Dieter Wiesner. Jackson's cryptic words suggest that the influence went beyond just the government. Tommy Mottola, a figure with considerable influence in the music industry, could very well be the figure Jackson was referring to, and also might have played a role in Murray's early release. After extensive research, I've come to a conclusion. It all started after Michael Jackson spoke out against Tommy Mottola. Shortly after, Mottola sent Dr. Murray into Michael's life. Murray then reportedly addicted Jackson to Propofol, ultimately leading to his death. The alleged reason for recording Jackson's voice was to satisfy Mottola, seeking revenge for Jackson's public disrespect towards him. What do you think about this theory? Let me know in the comments. It took me 15 days to compile this information and create a video detailing the tragic events, all based on data from verified sources. If you found this information intriguing, please like and subscribe for more relevant content. See you in the next video.